Let me get on my stage real quick. Stepping up. What's up, guys? This is Keith from Shoreline here. Today we are talking about how to mount your snowboard bindings onto your snowboard. Now, where we're going to start off is getting the right fit with your boot into your snowboard binding. And we're looking on two different things here. That's the footprint of the actual boot onto the footprint of the binding. You're going to want equal hang on your toe and on the heel here. So we're going to slide our boot into our binding here and just make sure that there's about equal distance hanging over the heel and hanging over the toe here. If certain bindings, like Union bindings, have adjustable heel cups where you can pull the heel cup out a little bit or push the heel cup in and adjust that hang that you have there. While other bindings are sort of set with what you got. So if you have way too much hang over your toe, then your binding might be too small for you. Or if your toe isn't really reaching the front of the binding, then your binding might be too big for your boot. Another thing we're looking for with the boot placement inside the binding is how the straps sit on your boot. You're looking for the toe strap to sit right over the toe, and you want just about even length on both the slider and then the ratchet side of the boot. So you want the strap to sit dead in the middle. Same with the ankle strap as well. You're going to want it to sit evenly on both sides of the boot and have a nice firm pressure right in the middle. Most bindings you can easily adjust by hand nowadays. They have tool-free adjustments where you can just unscrew it with your hand and adjust as needed on the hill, on the fly, wherever you may need. There are still some bindings that you have to adjust with a screwdriver, so bring your tools that you need just in case something needs to change. This is usually a set and forget sort of thing. Once you set it, you never have to touch it again. So now we're going to be talking about how to actually mount your bindings onto your board. It all depends on the mounting system your boards have. There's two different systems. There's the 4x2, just a normal laid out screws like this, or there's the Burton channel, which only has two screws that you put in on this side. Now, most binding manufacturers have a base plate which can accommodate both, where these two can accommodate the 4-hole pattern, and you can set that on top and screw it in, and then they also have the 2 holes on the side which will accommodate the Burton channel. Now, there are some binding companies like now, the bindings that I ride, that you have to get 2 different base plates to accommodate for the 2 different boards. They give you the normal 4-hole pattern, and then you can purchase another disc that has 3 holes just like this, and these will allow you to mount this binding or almost any other binding to the channel system. First, I'm going to start off with the normal 4-hole system here. So we're going to take our binding, open up the gas plate, or the gas pedal as we like to call it here, and show us our mounting disc down here. When we look at this base plate here, we can see a couple numbers etched on it. These numbers indicate the angle at which we have our feet on the snowboard. Now, for me personally, I ride with 2 different stances. There's a duck stance where both feet are going to be at about 15 degrees on the front foot and about -15 on the back foot. And what that's going to help me achieve is I'm going to be able to ride switch just as easily as I'm going to be able to ride goofy, which is I'm a goofy rider. So I start with my right foot forward. I'll be able to ride with my left foot forward just as easily, and there won't be a hindrance. It won't make me feel awkward by going switch or anything like that. It's really good for freestyle type riding, so you can switch the other way, do a couple fun playful butters, 180s, all that sort of stuff. So if you're not so into the freestyle side of things or riding switch or anything like that, you don't have to have your back foot even as your front foot. So you don't have to have 15 and -15. What a lot of people do when they're a set directional rider is they take that back foot and they put it at about -3 degrees or even 0 degrees, just because that helps you achieve that heel side turn, just gives you a little bit more power when you're not going switch. Now, I personally like to ride posi-posi. That just gives you a lot more control on that heel side turn and just opens up your body to the rest of the mountain, which just makes you feel a little bit more comfortable. But as I'm saying, it is all personal preference, and everybody rides just their little bit of different way. So play around with it a little bit and find out what works for you. Everybody has a different width stance, and most boards nowadays has a recommended spot for you to mount your bindings, and that will be around 20 inches to about 24 inches depending on the board you're riding, the type of terrain you're riding. It all kind of depends on personal preference. But where we like to start off with in figuring out your stance is you need to stand on the ground and give your knees a slight bend, just as if you were riding. And then we're going to measure from the ground up to your knee, the center of your knee. And for me, that's about 19.5 inches. So then I want to measure from center to center of the inserts, 19.5 inches. So as we can see here, this base plate will be there. And some of them have etchings right in the middle, otherwise you will have to guess. Or hold your measuring device in the middle of your plate and then see where that 19.5 lies. As I can see, that lines up right here on these ones. I don't go by the recommended stance. I go with the 19.5 almost on every single board because I know that's what I like. So I'm going to stick this with 19.5 right here. And put this other one down as well. Sweet. And make sure you line up the holes. Make sure this one is still on 15. And screw away. And remember your hole patterns here. And just make sure you put your base plate over the right holes. Now while you're putting it down, make sure that your buckles are going to be on the outside of the binding. We never want our buckles on the inside of the binding. Because someone might look at you like you're a little kooky then. So as we're tightening up the bindings here, you never want to go in a square pattern. We like to do what we call a star pattern, where you kind of crisscross your screws. You go from the one corner and you tighten it down, and then you go to the other corner, the opposite corner in diagonal, and then you tighten that one down. Never screw the screw in at 100% pressure your first time. Make sure you do the star pattern and get it down about 70% tightness, just to make sure that you got the screws sitting right in the insert and we're not going to strip any of the insert. Once you got everything locked down and secured at about 70%, go ahead and give it a full twist and make sure the screws are nice and tight inside there. I always give it a little extra turn just to make sure that it's nice and tight, especially because I'm short, so I got to give it that extra push. So once you got your bindings all nice and tight in there, make sure your buckles are on the outside. Make sure they're both ducked out the same way. And make sure I'm actually riding goofy. And looks like I'm ready to ride. Hopefully you guys are too. Hopefully this helps you guys out. Figure out how to set up your snowboard bindings to your snowboard. And get out there and shred it.